Former police officer Kim Potter says that she mistakenly grabbed and discharged her service weapon, but says that she meant to actually grab her taser. Now, and only on 23 ABC, we're joined with retired Bakersfield Police Sergeant Gary Carruesco, who worked in internal affairs, to talk about the differences between a taser and a service weapon and of the likelihood of mistaking one for the other. So Gary, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We definitely appreciate it. First, I want to go ahead and start off with the basics. What side do officers carry their service weapon and what side do they carry their tasers on? And is this universal for every department?
So typically an officer is going to carry their service weapon on their dominant hand side, whether they're right or left-handed. The taser would then be carried on the opposite side, and that's standard for most departments. Some tasers are carried on the duty belt itself. Some tasers are carried on drop-down holsters.
And is there different training on guns versus tasers?
Yeah, the training is distinctly different. The level of force for each tool is different. And so the training for firearms involves, live ammunition, paper targets, simulated scenarios. The taser sometimes involves dummy rounds where cartridges are fired and probes are fired into either paper targets again, or with simulated taser cartridges, they can be fired into actual individuals.
And guns versus tasers, how does the safety work on each device?
It really depends on the type of firearm that each department carries. Typically, to function a taser, there is a lever that has to be depressed before the taser will be able to fire. On firearms such as the Glock pistols that Bakersfield PD carries, the safety mechanisms are actually built into the trigger, and so they're depressed at the same time that the trigger is depressed.
And I do want to talk about the size and the weight of a service weapon compared to a taser. What's the major differences that we see between a service weapon and a taser when it comes to that?
So the main differences are size and weight. Size meaning length and height, and there's a very big difference in how much each of those weighs.
And do they feel or weigh less in your dominant hand versus your non-dominant hand?
For sure. A firearm fully loaded is going to weigh substantially more than a taser would. The tasers are relatively light, but you have to consider, the circumstances in which they're being used. Normally it's a dynamic situation, and you may not feel the difference in weight when you grab one or the other.
And just simple question here, is it easy to mistake a gun for a taser?
It shouldn't be. With the amount of training that is received on both tools, officers should be able to distinctly tell the difference, mainly due to the differences in the way that they look, the way that they feel, the way that they function, and the side of the officer's body that they're carried on.
All right. Thank you, Gary. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And local leaders are planning a vigil for right following protests. A date and a location hasn't been decided yet for the vigil. Two local pastors say the shooting and killing of Daunte Wright is an incident that impacts all Black communities throughout the country. They also said that people have the right to protest. They just hope that the protests stay peaceful.